Let's see if we're live here. Says we're live. Hey, Dave Knight. Welcome. Welcome to we had a homework assignment and I thought, well, what the hell? Might as well where's my phone? I can't see anything. Oh, here it is. Hey guys, gals, mostly guys. Uh I was on Tony Robbins. Long story short, always been a big fan of self-help people. A couple of the ones that off the top of my head that I remember and why I think I like Tony Robbins is because of the influence that he had with Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn, uh, I guess, was a disciple of, Tony Robbins was a disciple of Jim Rohn. Zig Ziglar, I like him a lot. Jim Rohn's dead. Zig Ziglar has passed away. Um, um, but Tony Robbins is still living, and he's able to get me to laugh and cry and cheer and shout and scream. So some good things, right? But anyway, so we had a homework assignment, and he said put it on Facebook. But well, you know what? My fan base is here on YouTube, and the people that listen to me and whatnot. So what's going on in my life? All right. Anyway, so let's talk about what's your old story. Number one. Actually, let's see if I can put this up here for you guys to see it too. See if we can get it to. Maybe if we put this light on up here, that'll help with seeing it. I guess we're not going to be able to see it. Oh well. Turn off the light. All right. So, what's your old story? What's your new story? How will your new story change your life? Well, my life's a mess right now. Not all of it, but parts of it. Uh, I had some health issues through COVID that kind of threw a wrench into the works. And then then I had in May, it kind of reared its ugly head of last year in May of 23. It's taken, actually, it's still trying to get the diabetes and whatnot under control, but it's getting better. So old story, my trading since now, granted that it progressively got better last year. Here's my camera up here, and I'm looking at the wrong spot. So let me look at the camera. So my trading got better through the year, but it was like where are my major mishaps and problems in trading right now? And it really comes down, why am I failing? It comes down, broke down a couple things up here on the top. My failure is based basically on self-destruction. So the old is me, and you've heard me talk about it, the WTF mentality. When I just throw the towel in and go all balls out, just might as well start ripping my clothes off and trade naked at that point, because that's how I go about my trading at that point. There's no rules, no shirt, no shoes, no service. I'm throwing all the rules out. I threw all the rules out in my trading, and I go. And some days I win big. Other days I blow the trading account. So it's not a sustainable way to trade when I go. So that emotional state is kind of what I'm talking about. Another, I don't know if this will come up or not, but we'll see if this one will come up. Another thing Tony talked about today was the 4 archetypes. Maybe you can see that, maybe you can't. Let's see if it'll focus in a little bit. But anyway, what it shows there is a warrior, a magician, a lover, and a sovereign, the king, God. So I think a sovereign in that sense as God. But you have a warrior state, right? And I attributed that to the color red. Then you have the magician, the joker, that part of the lovable, that's the lover. But the Joker side, but I attribute that to color green, and the mischief side and whatnot. So, anyways, long story short, that's something that came through that how are you going to take those four states? And what I wrote down at that point was that what would the magician say to the king? Or excuse me, the warrior says to the king, "I'll do it." And the king says, "Believe in yourself." The magician says, "You got this." The king, once again, instead in this case, God says, "Believe in yourself." And then the last part of that was the lover. The lover says, "Trust in yourself." And the God says, "Trust, believe in yourself, believe." So what I was getting out of it when I was listening to this today was a lot of my failures. Knowledge is there. Me self-destructing is a mental something that goes inside my head that throws things off kilter. Some days it's because I don't get up early and then I'm rushing to get to the computer. So, being in the right state of mind, right, when you're trading, that's got to be very important. Having the energy, sometimes I don't have the energy to trade and I'm trading, and not being the right mental frame state of mind once again comes into mind. So here I am. I'm not in the right mental state. I get up late. I don't follow my and a lot of it's because I just get burned out. I'm I've been going at this for so long and for so hard that the belief center has started. Well, actually it waned a while ago, but now that it's below, it's down here, way on down there. Even though I've got the knowledge and everything's up there in my head, my belief center has been like, where did it go? And pattern recognition. He talked about that today too. There was 3 things that you can do: pattern recognition, pattern utilization, pattern creation. So you see things develop. You think, all right, this is going to do this. And then you jump in early. So my biggest problem that I have is patience, right? Patience. I don't have the patience to wait for the market to really, the volume shows up, but I jump into a market thinking it's got to do this, and then it goes the other direction. So I think it's going to go long, and then it takes off short. So I don't get the market enough time. The pattern's there. I see the pattern recognition. I know I'm looking at this again. I should be looking at the blue light up here. So I see the pattern. The pattern's there. So I know it's going to break one way or the other. But I go and then I say, well, then it goes against me, or sometimes I catch it. So was that part of that pattern utilization? So pattern recognition is part of that, but pattern utilization. So using the knowledge that you have in your head and you see on the screen, hours. I've got hours upon hours upon hours upon hours of sitting in front of a computer screen. And fear pretty much goes out the window when you're trading at Apex. For me, I just say I go into, I'm going to make 3,000 in a day, or I'm going to make 800 a day. I'm going to make 500 a day. So those parts are easy for me, because I'll do that. The other side that throws me off is I don't have a filter when the loss comes on sometimes. And like, for instance, I failed whatever EA I was in when I last recorded. I failed that one. So I have purposely not buying another EA at least this week. Now maybe I buy one Sunday night, depending upon how I feel going through Tony Robbins. Today was day 1. Going to go through day 2 and day 3, and then make a decision on Sunday, not Saturday, because I know I'll be pumped up on Saturday after I'm done on this motivational journey that I'm on right now. I've got to rebuild myself from. I know this in my book. I've actually started, I use these, right? This is journal 33. I have not officially started number 33, but I have journal 33. I opened it up today. It's taken me till what, January 25th to break the seal on this one and actually think about what I want to put in this one. But I want to make this one. Now, Jesus died at age 33. The Masons have 33 levels. 33 was my high school number. There I go, looking at the screen again when the blue lights up here. 33 was my high school number in football. I like 33. 33 is one of my all-time favorite numbers. I like 11. I like 13. I like 7. I like 3. But 33 is my favorite number of all of them. I want to make this journal number 33 my last one. The one that is the breakthrough one. The one that at the end of the year, when I watch this video, when I come back to it, I say, when I started Journal 33, this is the one that allowed me in the month of February to make that $2,000. In March, it allowed me to make 2,000. In April, I got 4,000, and so forth and so on. By coming into December of 2024, to pull out $10,000 at Apex. So I don't know how I'm going to achieve that, but that puts me in line with being in the top 10% of wage earners or earners in America, in the world, really. But that puts me there. I've got to find that strength inside me again. So the warrior talks. The magician says, do it. Just do it. I think that's what the magician was telling me today, right? No, the magician was telling me, you got this. The warrior says, just do it. I'll do it. Just do it. Nike, right? And the lover side says, trust in yourself, David. You got this. You got this. So a lot of my problem right now is even though I have all this knowledge, and even though all of this has kind of went south, it's still there. My heart is still beating. My pride has been decimated over the years. I've been to the point where humbleness is not only a pie, it's a cake. It's everything. I have been eating humble pie for so long now, and I've stifled a lot of the abilities that I've had in my past that's allowed me to be successful. And what I wrote down on the other side of this, it says my new story. So the old story for me, why I fail in trading is I hit the self-destruct button. I go into the WTF mentality. I overtrade. I over leverage. I see, even though I'm trading the MNQ, I grab this frickin' thing and I'm doing this. Right? No, let's get rid of that. But I'm hitting that button so many frickin' times that I don't even know how many contracts I'm in. That's a bad thing to do, right? That means my discipline has gone out the window. That means I've allowed the demon, which I know lives in there. Everyone that's a trader knows you got a demon that lives inside that makes you do stupid shit, right? At least that's my belief, and that's what I'm sticking to. But the new me says to have faith in myself, to believe in myself, to accomplish the goals that I got that I want to start for not only me but for you as well. To really put my heart and soul into something that I believe in. Do I really, really, really want to be an insurance agent? Well, you know the answer to that. It's a means to an end. That means no. But it pays the bills. So maybe that's what I got to do to pay the bills temporarily while I continue to work on myself as a trader. I've been taking courses. I've been going through how to drive my own Facebook lead generation. In marketing courses in the past through Russell Bronson, Ryan Dice. Um, God, I've taken so many self-help things over the year. If I showed you my library over here, it would freak your mind out. But I've seen most people that are in this type of thing, they're continually learning. You're always learning. One thing I'll say about life is this. When I was a young man, I thought it was easy. But I know now, as I know, I'm smart enough to know that there's a lot of things that I don't know. And that's what makes it dangerous to be a trader. Because the more things you don't know, the more things you get confused on. And when you're confused, that confused state of mind is not a good place to be as a trader. And we all get into that. Whether you want to say yay or nay to that, we all get into a confused state of mind. Even though we see things that pattern recognition, you see a head and shoulders pattern, you see volumes coming in the market, you see momentums coming in the market. Everything is just looking a-okay. You got your A plus setups, right? You got those things that wow, I've seen this before. But then we see times like the market is staying in this yo-yo period of time, and you start seeing things. You see, well, yeah, it's going to break out. It's going to break out long, or it's going to fake down to the short and then go long, or it's going to go fake long and then go short. We're making shit up, right? We make it up. We're confused. That confused state of mind that you get into is a bad place to be as a trader. Humbly speaking, from the bottom of my heart, when you're confused, the best place to be is out. And it's tough to be because you want to make so much money in any given day. For me, I want to make 500 a day. I want to lose no more than 500 a day. I haven't been able in the month of January, even though I've put that as my goal, I've not been able to say, let's stop at 500. Because what do? I start clicking the freaking mouse button, and I don't know how many contracts I'm in because I'm getting to the WTF mentality once again. So Scott Adams' self-help book, Reframing, is one of the few self-helps I've found helpful. Thank you, Vincenzo. How do you eat an elephant? One bite of it, Garrett. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. One of my all-time favorite books. If I had a book that that the Bible. uh, right now, I'm reading a new version of it. It's NLT, but I actually haven't written. I was very faithful when I started reading it in December. I went through the book of John, which I think there's only 16 chapters in it. Then I went through the book of Acts. I got kind of bored with that. I went back to Matthew, started reading Matthew again. I've read these books before, but I was trying to take my time to get through it. And then last couple of weeks, I haven't opened it up. I haven't been to church in 3 weeks. I think I haven't been to church since, I don't know if I've been, I think I got to church the first of the year, whenever that was that, well, I don't think I've been to church in 2024 yet. They also had a COVID scare at the church, and then they canceled a couple meetings, and then Wednesday night got pushed off anyway. So yeah, self-help book. I like Jim Rohn's books. Actually, when I was listening to Tony Robbins today, he started off with the seasons, and it reminded me of Jim Rohn with the changing of seasons, where there's a time, winters, like he actually made a I think I did picture on that one. Go back to that. Yeah. So you have the summer, Spring starts it off, right? Spring, everything's easy. I mean, you can look back at your trading, and some days are very easy, right? There's not a thing that you can do. You push the button, click. 30 seconds later, you're out. You're up 500-600 bucks. You're thinking, wow, that was easy. Um, and then summer time, uh, you have to struggle to get through that day a little bit, maybe, but you still win it. Fall, that's that testing period of time, I guess. It says reaping. So a reaping time. Fall for me has been elusive, to be honest. The fall part, everything that you've done comes to fruition. That's been the tough part for me, I guess. Fall, and then winter. I've lived in winter so long that it's what's winter. Winter says slow down, regeneration, creation of space for new beginning. So um, death is associated with winter. So sometimes you got to die to your old self, so the new person can be born. The spring can come out. So that old, you got to bury the old so the new can come out. So springtime, then everything's joyful in spring. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you believe in these things, but I saw my first cardinal today, and um, that made my soul happy for some reason. If you a cardinal for me, maybe my dad was looking at that point. My dad and I didn't get along very well in life. He was an A-type personality. I really haven't talked much about my father, but my dad was a SOB in a lot of ways, and I think if I had to say, I won't say it's daddy issues, but maybe it is. Maybe it does boil down to daddy issues that I've allowed. You know, Even though when he was living, I always thought in my head that the worst thing that can happen is I just go belly up and move back home, and I'll just take the ridicule, and who cares? Um, Now he's been dead. Will be dead 20 years. Passed away in 2004, July of 2004. So it's 20 years coming up this year. Um, when I look back at life, um, there was a time, because I ran into a box that said 2005 on it, and it was one of my best trading years of my life. Um, I had some good years in the 2000s, early 2000s. Had a few good years um, in 2010s through like 2015, 2016. But from 2017, 2018, roughly, I think, well, about 2018 to 2024 has not been so great. I've I had a little bit better than break even year, I think, in 22. Last year, 23 was a loss. 21 was pretty good. 20 was no good. 19 and 18 were really no good either. But anyway, so where was I going? There's certain things in your life that get funded now. I'm checking out get funded now as a prop payouts day one of the performance count. Yeah, the past is imagined. Forget it and reboot. That's a good point, Vincenzo. Forget it and reboot. Um, yeah. So yeah, my dad's the only man that broke my nose not once but twice by punching me in the face. Had a Vanderbilt ring. He wore it on his right hand, right there. Big V. It's still in the case at home. At my mom's house, I won't take it. I despise that ring. Every time I look at it, I think about the abuse that ring caused, because he always had it, and when he'd strike out, it was with that right hand, and he had a nasty right. But later in life, I remember they pushed me a little too far, And and the crazy thing about this, I'll spend my 20s somewhere. Both my brothers are still living at home. And he pushed me a little too far one day. And I was a bigger guy at that point. And I was pretty muscular at that time as well. Did a lot of lifting when I was younger. Anyway, so in my 20s, I was still in fairly good shape. I grabbed him, I threw him up against the wall, and I lifted him. If you ever hit me again, type of thing, So he never hit me after that. But the crazy thing about that whole situation, he says later in life that that's the day I respected you, son, because you stood up for yourself. What the fuck shit, such a crap situation is that? But then light bulb goes off because my wife says something later in life. Your dad did the best he could with what he had. Because then I thought about what his dad did to him. And you think, my dad was bad, his dad was worse than my dad. So then I was able to finally put it to rest, lay it to rest, become at peace with it. It took a long time to get to that point, but I finally laid it to rest, and because I was able to visualize that I will stop the insanity, the madness, the craziness. It ends with me. I will not treat my children the way that I was treated. I will not take the belt and snap it and just stand still, son, so I can beat you shit. I don't know how I got on this, but use that memory for your gain. Change trauma from, Vincenzo says, change trauma from a crippling thing to a reason that you can kick ass. That's a good point. And it's helped me in the past. That's why I had some of my really good trading years, because I was able to internalize that hate and then turn it into something. But I think since I was 2018, maybe that was when that conversation with my wife, 2017, 2018, takes place. So that love-hate relationship that I had with my dad, like I said, 2005 was my greatest year as a trader. Outside of, I think, when my dad was living 2001 and 2, when I was able to put money into a real estate development and whatnot, that's still paying and still taking care of my mother. So I'm thankful for some of the things that I did in my past that helps my mom today. So and that's my mom's 80 now. Love of my life outside of my wife, my children, it's my mom. So my mom took a lot of abuse as well, but I would stand in front of my dad, in front of mom, to stop him from trying to beat on her. So I would take the hit and abuse to stop him from going to her. I was the oldest of 3 boys, by the way. Anyway, so it took me a while to get to that point, but yes, I finally got to that point where I laid it to rest. Because my wife, with her wisdom, she said what she said. You got to just forgive your dad and move on. He did the best he could with what and how he grew up. Now my dad had a sister, and his sister lit up the house and the moon and everything else. My aunt, great woman, Aunt Paula, but he didn't lay a finger on her. She could do no wrong, even though she got married like at 16 or 17, doesn't matter, right? But she could do no wrong and my dad could do no right. And that's kind of the way that it was with me. You're going to do this and you're going to do it this way. And you're going to be an accountant because that's the only thing I'm going to pay for. And, so I drop out of school and I decided to go my own way for a couple of years. And I go back into school at Duquesne University up here in Pittsburgh. And he didn't pay a dime for those last 2 years that I was in. I got back in there, but the easiest way out was to get my degree in accounting. So all of my credits that I had transferred over to Duquesne after a couple of years, and it only took me 2 years to get out. So altogether, I screwed around for one of my years. There's a marriage in there that we won't talk about, but I've been married a couple times in my lifetime. but my last marriage is stuck. So my first two were 2 years, 2 months, by the way. I think that's right. 2 years, 2 months. Because yes, 2 years, 2 months. My first two marriages lasted, and I remember marrying my wife that we're now getting ready with 2001. So this year is coming up 2000 with 23 years. 23 years in April. So I remember telling her that if we can make it through 4 years, 4 months, and a day, you've beat everybody. Anyway, long story short, Shinzo, as you get older, you come to grips with things, right? But now my temper, I still got that's probably one of that's one of the things I wrote down. Temper. My temper has probably got me in more trouble than it's worth. As a football coach, I've had to figure out to control. There's a fine line between being temperate and out of control, right? As a trader, there's a fine line between being in control and in getting out of control. Football's the same way. Life is the same way. I remember very vividly one football game that my son was playing, my oldest, and they were getting the shit kicked out of them. And we were down at the goal line, and I'm just screaming because my kid was the center, and I knew that if the quarterback would get under the center, that my boy will take him into the end zone. No doubt in my mind that wouldn't happen. But no, they lined up 5 yards back and they centered the fucking ball. And you know what happens after that. You go 5 yards to go 6, right? Doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, so long story short, when it comes to stuff like that, the things I got out of it, right? Faith in myself, belief in myself. I can do it. I'll do it. You got this. Trust in yourself. Be courageous, loving, grateful, brave. And then I wrote a few other things down there, emotions and whatnot. Life's not been easy for the most part for me. But Zig Ziglar said it best, right? He said, how did he put it? That he said, life's not easy. Something like that. How did he put it? Life is not easy, but I wouldn't have it any other way, type of thing. So in other words, he pretty much said that the challenges of life is what makes you grow as a human being. It's kind of his synopsis to see you at the top. That was one of his things that he would talk about. Jim Rohn, very similar. Tony Robbins is in motivational. So yeah, sometimes you gotta just step back. I guess that's my point today, is you gotta step back, realize that there's a greater power. Now, for me, it's God. For better, for worse, it's whatever you consider that higher power for you. For me, like I said, it's God. The King for me is God, without going down that religious rabbit hole that it can cause. But everyone has to have something to believe in, and whatever that power that's inside of you, you got to have something, because the other part of that is we got that demon living inside. So the best example I remember as a kid is watching the cartoons, right? The right shoulder, this is my right, has what on the right shoulder and what's on the left shoulder. I'm left-handed. I always got offended, but the devil's always on your left, and the little the demon's on your left and the angel's on the right, right? So anyway, right, what's left? And by the way, the left-handed people is the only one living inside their right mind. So I don't know where I'm going with this. Anyway, I thought I would share. It's been a struggle last couple of years. I have to this last year, even though I got paid $1,500 in the month of November, it was a struggle. It was a struggle to get to point A to point B. It's my wife calling, so I'm gonna have to get going here. What is it? 6 o'clock? That'll do it. That'll do it. So if I leave you with any words of wisdom, what would the words of wisdom be? He was talking about you have to have the right state of mind to tell your story, and your strategy will come. So he was saying that most of the things when we're trying to get that breakthrough, we come to a strategy first, right? But that strategy could be the wrong strategy. You got to come from and then you start telling a story into that strategy, and that story go into the state of mind that he has said, no, you got to reverse that. You got to go state of mind to story to strategy. Never really thought of it that way before. But if you got the right state of mind, in other words, for me, if I'm going to trade, then I got to be ready to trade. And we all know these things, right? You have the alarm set, you get up, whatever your morning routine is, you do it, you're ready. You have the set time that you're going to sit in front of the computer, whatever that is, and you limit yourself. Most of my losses are outside of my trading hours because what? I'm bored. And I think, well, I bet you I can make some more money. Then I turn an afternoon session into a loser, and then I blow the account. That's what happened to the last one. I had the last two EAs I've been in, last three. I think one I blew outright, but I was up $2,000 on one of them. I think I was up like maybe 1 or 200 on another, and just 5 minutes in, lost it. And another one, I was up 2 days. I was up 1,100 in 2 days, and I went to an afternoon session, um, testing some things out, and maybe when you're testing, not maybe when you're testing, you need to be in SIM, not using a live EA account. And if you just stick to your time. For me, an hour and a half is optimal for me. If I can start at 9:30 and be done by 11, if I start my day at 9, if I start at 8:30, it's at 10 because there's reports at 8:30 for 10. If I start at 9:30, then I should be done by 11. Physically, I've got to the point where I have to shut my and I've done this, but when I leave my my screens even open to the point where it's all you got to do is go into Ninja Trader and say your thing and press it and then put your charts back up, right? But I've got better this year of shutting the system down. Now looks like I'm gonna have to go a step past that point. I'm gonna have to go a step to maybe even to the point of shutting the whole computers down. Uh, once that session's over until I get the habit. And then Zig Ziglar says it takes 28 days, I believe, is what he said back in the time, that it takes 28 days to form a habit. And once you get the habit, and I've done that before, I was able to get. I was thinking about I'm gonna leave you with the success story to leave it, and we'll leave it at this. One of my success stories is my weight loss. At one point in my life, I was up over 300 pounds. I graduated high school at 170 pounds. I fluctuated back and forth in my 20s from going from 250 to 200, yo-yo dieting that I would do to go back and then go back. And I remember I got to 185, then I went to 215. Then I went to 200 to 240. Then I went to 225 to 260. Then I went 250 to 280. And then I went like 265. And next thing was up over 305. I remember the scale at 305. And my oldest son was born. And I remember reaching over to pick him up, and I was out of breath just picking him up. And I said, something's got to change in my life. And I remember trying to tie my shoe at 305 pounds and the sweat that would roll down my body, and how I had to lift my leg up and be very uncomfortable trying to make that happen. I'm now down almost to 200 pounds. I'm in between 200 to 205, and I've maintained this weight for about 210 to 205. I've maintained that for at least 10 years now. And I've maintained 205 to coming to the 200 mark for the last 2 years. So my goal is to get to 200, but really it's to get below the 200 mark. But if you set your mind to something and there's a strong enough will, you can make it happen. And that's how I've got to handle my trading as well. You got to take those success parts of your life and transfer it over. You got to get rid of the demon thing that says you can't do this, that you're a failure, that everything you do turns to shit. Because there's parts of you in your life, everybody has something to be there grateful for. When you really come down and you drill it down. You know, for me, you know, my wife, my kids, my mom, my brothers, my sister-in-laws, my nieces, my nephews. We can go on people that you love and care for. It's easy to love those that love you, right? It's harder to love those that don't love you. So, but focus down when you're at your lowest part of whatever that part of your life is. For me, there's some of those days when I'm blowing up, I would just get, you know, you start bargaining. I guess the 7 areas of grief come in mind, right? And as I was listening to Tony Robbins today talk about the 7 levels of grief, I have it in here. Well, anyway, the one of the ones that I've been stuck on, and maybe you realize this too, we start bargaining. If you just do this for me. I remember sitting down when I was trading real money at one point in my life and bargaining with God. If you get me through this, I'll never do it again. Have you ever been in that situation? I know I have. And I find myself in that kind of situation at Apex as well. And that's not a good place to be, obviously, right? To bargaining or flipping a coin or whatever it is that you're doing at that point. So belief, trust, faith, those are the things that will carry you forward. Because when it really comes down to, you've got your system. Your system is down. It's how you interpret the data, how you exit a bad position, and how you can maximize profits. If you can stay in control when you're trading, whatever part of time that you're trading, and stay in control during that time, and you feel yourself coming out of control, you've got to shut it down for the day. You've got to stop, for lack of a better way of saying it. You got to stop, and you got to be able to say that you're going to trade the next day, that you live to fight another day. When I was trading at my best in my past, I always had the discipline to stop and walk away. Now that I'm trying to make a living out of this from May of last year to now, the pressure, the pressure cooker heated up a lot more, and I didn't handle it very well, for lack of a better way of saying it. That's pretty much where it's come from. My pressure that I put on myself, the self-destruction part of my trading career, has culminated because of the pressure that I put on myself. And maybe you're there as well. So that's kind of where I am. Where I am when I'm looking at now, I'm thinking, well, that's where I want. That's where I am. That's where I was. And now in 2024, here's where I'm going. So where I'm going is up. I can't get much lower than where I am right now. So the only way I've got to go right now is up. God bless. Take care. I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.